presentation of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance by the Girl Scouts of New York Penn Pathways.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes prove in liberating strife. More than self, their country love, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain design.
Thank you. We ask our inductees to please be seated.
And the audience as well.
Good afternoon, and once more I would like to introduce ourselves and welcome you to the National Women's Hall of Fame 26th induction ceremony. I'm Betty Baer, co-president of the board, and joining me is my co-president, Eileen Hartman. Today is a day of ceremony and celebration as we induct 10 exceptional American women who were nominated by their fellow citizens, the American people, as holders of important milestones in the struggle for women's rights and equal opportunity. Seated behind us are this year's inductees and acceptors. Each of them has earned the right to this recognition, and we are honored to be part of memorializing their stories in this very special place and in the Hall of Fame. With genuine pleasure, we now introduce our esteemed ceremony MC, Rochester's 13 WHAM TV news anchor and Deer Hall colleague, Ginny Ryan. Please join us in welcoming Ginny Ryan. Thank you, Ginny. And now I have the distinct and special honor to introduce Governor Andrew Cuomo to the stage to introduce Matilda Cuomo, but let me say a few words first. This morning, as I noted, we have the pleasure of introducing someone who's been fighting the good battle for gender equality and a better future for women and all New Yorkers, Governor Andrew Cuomo. He has made advancing gender equality one of his top priorities, from fighting for women's reproductive rights and guaranteeing access to reproductive health care, to passing paid family leave, to working to eliminate the wage gap. This governor's being an ally in the fight for gender equality. He has raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour and passed legislation in the country to prevent sexual assault on college campuses. Earlier this year, Governor Cuomo announced the launch, yes, And shout outs for that raise in the minimum wage as well. Governor Cuomo announced the launch of the first ever New York State Council on Women and Girls, which is making sure that every policy enacted and each program created takes into account the experiences of women and girls and tries to further advance equality in our state. We at the Hall thank him for the state's partnership in helping to transform the historic Seneca Knitting Mill. New York State committed nearly $4 million in grants to help restore the building and turn it into the beautiful new home that we were celebrating just a while ago. We have a strong voice and champion for Restore New York, for developing the state and developing some of our towns in the area, and he's a national champion. He doesn't just talk about it. I ask Governor Cuomo to come up now to give us his opening remarks and to introduce his mother, Matilda Cuomo, who's being inducted into the hall today. Thank you.
Nice to see you. Thank you. This one good? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. First to Betty Baer and Eileen Hartman. Let's give them a great round of applause for organizing this fantastic event. To all our inductees, what an impressive group, aren't they? Let's give them a round of applause. We have a lot of distinguished people in the room, but we have Gloria Steinem, who has been such a pioneer in this movement. Let's give her a round of applause and thank her for all she does. Humble, too. What a really impressive group of inductees. When you look at the breadth of accomplishment that they have, it really is extraordinary. And it's my honor to be here, to be part of this ceremony. It's a special honor to be part of this ceremony when my mother is one of the inductees. So I'm wearing two hats. The governor hat and the son hat, but primarily the son hat. Matilda Cuomo has 5 children. My sister Madeline, who is a lawyer and a mother. My sister Maria, who is a filmmaker, runs a not-for-profit that helps the homeless and is a mother. My sister Margaret, who is the oldest, although she doesn't like to admit it and doesn't like when I say it, but I said it, so it's a little late. But you are either the oldest chronologically or you are not. It's a matter of math, so it's not really. I now look older than she is, but it wasn't always that way. It's this job that did it, actually. I looked 22 before I became governor. But Margaret is a doctor and a mother. And you know the story about the mother who had a daughter who was a doctor. Mother has 2 children, a daughter and a son, and the daughter becomes a doctor. And the mother's so proud of the daughter who became the doctor because the doctor is the position of respect, and she became a doctor. The son is in politics, and she has no respect for politics, and she tries to be nice about it, but she winds up communicating it, and the son is always trying harder and harder and harder because he wants to get that affirmation that the daughter, the doctor, has, and he runs for one office and he wins, and then he runs for another office, he wins, and then becomes a senator, and then he runs for president of the United States. And he wins. And he calls up his mom, he says, "Mom, I won, I'm gonna be the president of the United States. I want you to come down to Washington, see me sworn in, your son, the president of the United States." The mother says, "Okay." Comes down to Washington, she's in the front row, the president-elect walks out on the stage. He's about to be sworn in, and the mother nudges the person next to her and says, "See that boy on the stage? That's my son." He says, "Very nice. You know, His sister's a doctor. So, but we are not a competitive family. No, 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 no. We are just easygoing. My brother Christopher is not here today. He's the only member of the family who's not here. He said he had to work out on Saturday, is what he said. I didn't think it was a good excuse. I said, Mom, now you know who loves you more. And it's not Chris. I'm my mother's favorite. She told me that I'm her favorite. She told me not to tell the others, but I think they should know anyway, just as a matter of honesty. So I am my mother's favorite. My mother did it all. She raised 5 kids. She raised 5 kids basically on her own. My father was always busy doing what he was passionate about. She did it with no help. These were 5 kids besides me. They all brought their own difficulties. And she was a phenomenal mother. She was also, as a professional, outstanding. She worked with the UN Council on Children. She ran the New York State Commission on Children. And in 1984, she found her passion, which was mentoring, which was providing the support services for young people who really didn't have that base of support, and using mentoring as a vehicle to do it. She started a program in New York State. It is still her passion. She does it still. Over 10,000 children have been mentored by the program that she's run. To give you a sense of the person she is, we spent last weekend together. I was alone because my kids are now grown and gone, so I said, Mom, why don't you come over for the weekend? And we just hung around for the weekend, and I said to her, look, these are your golden years. What do you want to do? You want to get a new apartment? You want to travel? You want to get a summer house? She said, no, no, no. I have too much work to do with mentoring. There are too many children who need help for me to do anything else. And that's at the stage of life that she's in now. It has been a family mission of the Cuomos to be champions of women's rights. We have 14 grandchildren in my mother's family. 13 of the 14 are girls, okay? Now, that is statistically impossible. So I believe that was God's way of saying, I really want you to focus on women's issues, and in case you forget, I'm going to send you 13 out of 14. And we have been from the get-go. My father was a great champion and a pioneer of women's rights. I have followed the same course. I'm proud, as you heard from Betty, of the record that we've established. We've done more for women's rights in this state than any state in the United States of America, and I'm very proud of that. So many issues that had to be done for years that hadn't been done. We're the most aggressive state in protecting victims of domestic violence. We have the best paid family leave program in the United States. We have the highest goal for minority and women-owned businesses and state contracts. We have the best breast cancer protection program in the United States, where there is now no copay or deductible for any breast exam, and we have offices open after 5 o'clock on weekends. So we call it the No Excuses campaign. And we passed the best sexual assault on campus. That was a scourge that has been going on for decades, and schools were more concerned with their reputation than the rights of the woman who was abused. And that stops now. And in terms of breaking the glass ceiling and leadership and women in positions of leadership, which I think is the next frontier, My father appointed the first female to our state's highest court, the Court of Appeals. I appointed the second. We now have Janet DiFiore as the chief judge of the Court of Appeals. We have a female chancellor of the state university system. And I just appointed the first secretary to the governor in history, who's a woman, Melissa DeRosa, who's here today with us. And last point, I just want to say this. This is an important time because from Washington, there are real challenges to women's rights and the role of women in society. I tried to pass 2 years ago in New York a constitutional amendment to Roe v. Wade in the state constitution, where we'd have the Roe v. Wade protection in the state constitution. And I failed because the legislature said it's inconceivable that anyone would go to roll back Roe v. Wade. That was 2 years ago. It was inconceivable. Well, today it's the reality. And they are trying to do it, and it's wrong. And if Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott were here today, they would say, ladies, it is the time to stand up and organize and mobilize and make your voice heard. And to my mother, I say this. There's an Italian expression that says, the two things in life that will never leave you, the eye of God and the love of a mother. And it is so true. And on behalf of all the kids, Mom, we are proud of everything that you've accomplished. We're inspired by what you do for other people. We're grateful for what you have done for us. But we love you for who you are. Congratulations.
And now, please join me. Matilda Cuomo, the Hall takes great pride in inducting you to National Women's Hall of Fame.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well done. Please take a picture.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. I'm just as surprised as all of you folks that my son is here, the governor. Thank you, Governor. I love to say that. I want to thank everybody who's here today. It's so wonderful, and a wonderful introduction. Thank you for the members of the National Women's Hall of Fame for this prestigious honor, and to many friends and family that are here today to celebrate this special occasion. Special thanks to the National Women's Hall of Fame co-presidents, Betty Bayer and Eileen Hartman, and especially to Pat Alness, who works very hard, and my wonderful ambassador, Marilyn Barrow, and her husband, Jim. So wonderful. They made things so terrific. Very easy. And all the dedicated team that continue this important legacy and future for future generations. It's truly an honor to be among my fellow inductees. You are my heroes. I can't tell you, these are special ladies. I could stay here all week and listen to every one of them again and again. They're wonderful. We're fortunate to have them. I want to express my sincere appreciation to my dear friend Frank DiBerardino, who kindly took the time and effort to nominate me for this special effort. Frank works tirelessly as an extraordinary volunteer in Rome, New York. That's where he's from. How many people know there's a Rome, New York? There is. Yeah. and is improving the lives of hundreds of school children. And he's one of the most exceptional people on the professional volunteers that are part of the advisory council for the New York State Mentoring Program. We thank you, Frank, for your sincere friendship and dedication to enable our youth to have a better future. Keep it up. I recall with fond memory the many invitations as First Lady in Albany for 12 years to visit Seneca Falls and address the important issues concerning women and children. I tell you the truth, I really thought I was like in hallowed ground, because I was wondering, where did the suffragettes live? They were terrific ladies. We can't forget that. And the advancement of women was always a priority during my husband's tenure. We accomplished new opportunities for women in leadership and many programs to strengthen women, children, and families. And I'm so proud that Andrew, my son, the governor, is continuing his father's legacy with his own effective leadership. Andrew reaffirms his father's credo, that we are the family of New York. That's what we like to say. We have to keep it up. I have always believed that there are 3 pillars of support for children: the home, the school, and the community. And when one of these supports is not functioning, the child suffers. Again, you know, we started the program in 1983. It worked so well, and we reached thousands of children, and we had the right model, the one-to-one train, mentor, mentee. It's still going on. And then it stopped, because in 1994, Mario lost the election. It was gone. Now we come to actually in 1995, when my son Andrew was working for President Clinton as Secretary of HUD. I don't know how many of you know this, Housing Urban Development Corporation, and he suggested that I quickly start that same wonderful program again, and actually call it Mentoring USA. And he said, now, Mom, don't be just national, go international. He knows I like to get to Italy to travel. Well, it is in Italy, by the way, and I do travel to Italy. So it's a joy. Now we have an invitation to go to Holland, Ireland. Who wants to come with me? And even Germany. So you see, children are children everywhere, folks, all over the world. When they're not doing well in school, families are not functioning well, they're going to be in trouble. And we have to help them as soon as possible. And mentoring works. So again now, in 2015, I heard from the good governor, and he told me that he really wanted me to get that program working again because of the statistics he got of failing schools. So we got to work, and we've been recruiting and training volunteers right now. If you know anybody who wants to have a little time, would like to, just 1 hour a week, we do a great training, terrific. And it's just for one year, and it does so well for children and their future. So if anybody is interested, please don't hesitate. I'm going to keep brochures outside for you when you leave. So giving our time to a child really is an investment of a lifetime for the sake of all our children and families. So today, women should feel hope for the future. Women like you right here, our daughters and granddaughters, have choices and abilities that can help heal the world. And to build the future, we always have to start where the future starts, always with our children. Change a life and try to become a mentor if you can. I have one final thought I would like to share with you. I owe a debt of gratitude to my loving family, to my late husband, Mario, who was the love of my life, to our children, Margaret and Howard Mayer, and also Andrew and Sandy, Maria and Ken, Madeline and Brian, Christopher and Christina. Christopher can't be here. And my sister Nancy and Bob, and all my faithful friends who are here, all of whom have always encouraged me to pursue my passion for helping others. And to my 13 beautiful granddaughters, they are beautiful, in and out. And my one grandson, Mario, and I have now another great-grandson, also called Mario. So there you go, just 2.5 months ago. And they are all inspirations to me, to my love and hope for the future. Thank you, thank you, thank you all.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mrs. Cuomo. And may I add, happy birthday? Yes. What a gift to have you here today. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1993 and into our activist hearts and minds decades before and after. Please welcome Gloria Steinem to the stage, who will introduce Victoria Jackson. Ms. Steinem.
The woman you are about to see here today is the brilliant, innovative, worldwide entrepreneur, organizer who has taken the life-changing shock of her daughter's diagnosis more than a decade ago with NMO, a rare neurological disease that threatens the eyes and the spinal cord and therefore life itself, and created a foundation that has caused medical researchers in this country and on other continents to cooperate with each other as never before. The pharmaceutical industry to share knowledge instead of pursuing secretive and profitable patents, has organized 9 global conferences of patients and researchers, one each year. She has brought thousands of patients from around the world together to learn that they are not alone, as well as their families and their caregivers, whose lives are also dedicated to their survival. She has created a worldwide blood bank for research and opened the door to community and cure for sufferers, who have turned out to be not so rare after all. I can testify to the power and humanity of her genius at organizing right now, having just seen a film of her 2nd annual conference on and for the continent of Africa, this one in Mali, where hundreds of patients gathered. It is a country with 15 neurologists for 17 million people. So you can imagine how it feels to know you are alone, even when you are a medical expert, much less a patient, and to discover you have company and you have worldwide support. It is, all of this has been made possible by the Jackson Guthey Foundation with the support of her husband, Bill Guthey, who's here today, and the support and courage of her daughter, Allie, who is just entering law school. How's that for a victory? And also with her today is Jackson Guthey, a very talented songwriter, performer, a star, a rock star, who started very young, like in his teens. So one of her great accomplishments was that she's been in every city in the United States as a stage mother, going around. But I want to remind you of what you don't see when you look at her today. She was once a teenage girl in Los Angeles who was assaulted sexually by one of California's most brutal serial rapists and lost the ability to graduate from high school when she should have, while her sister, her younger sister, was able to use their single mother's slender resources to go to college and to medical school. She was a young woman who later became a single mother herself, taking her son with her as she became a standalone entrepreneur, developing makeup for Hollywood actresses that would become miraculously the first brand ever sold on television, and after long and hard work, a huge financial success. All this plus marriage and motherhood of the 2 great folks here today, and all this plus spending years serving women in prison as a volunteer, visiting so that they would have the self-confidence and self-esteem that comes from taking care of oneself, and from makeup too. and also creating homes for her family, beautiful homes. And you know, this could give her yet another career as an interior designer and an architect. I just want to say that the homes, they are fan-fucking-tastic. I just want They're so beautiful. She's like magic. I can imagine her arriving in a hotel room, throwing a scarf, and everything has changed. And she continues to work and to give her home and homes for good causes, from political candidates, environmental causes, women's rights, the rights of the vast population of incarcerated Americans, and much more. More than any other human being I have ever met or read about, Victoria Jackson is living proof of 3 of the truths of life. 1, we cannot control what happens to us, but we can use what happens to us. The final stage of healing is using what happened to us to help other people. And 3, kindness is the most important quality on earth. She does it all, and every day and every minute with kindness. I am so honored to be the person who inducts Victoria. It says, I think, on the medal, for your rare and inspirational activism on behalf of women's health and entrepreneurship and your transformative work in medical research, Victoria Jackson, you are now inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame.
Oh, boy, okay. So, thank you, Beyond. You know, yeah, your second person, and she's a crier. I woke up this morning and I thought about preparing for today, and then I thought, you know what? There's so much in my heart, so much I want to say, but in life I've pretty much never really prepared. I've just kind of thrown myself in the deep end. And, but then I said to myself, because I have some amazing friends that said, you know what, Victoria, you have been in survival mode your whole life. You never seem to just stop. And then an interesting thing happened as I was getting dressed. My watch fell off the sink and dropped, and it broke. Like time stopped. And I thought, okay, you know, today's about taking a moment and stopping. And I think about so much of in the past, what are things people have said? When have you failed? You know, tell me about some of your failures. And I thought about, it's really been when I've stopped, when I've held myself back. And we all can get in the way of that. It's sort of extraordinary for me standing here now as a woman who has struggled with low self-esteem, depression, panic disorder, anxiety, and it's held me back from a lot, including an extraordinary visit I would have had this year with the Pope, who asked me to go to the Vatican and speak. But I'm here. And and I wouldn't be anywhere else, and I wouldn't be here today, which is sort of bittersweet as well, if it wasn't part of the fact that 10 years ago, my daughter was given 4 years to live. And I'd been in the business of selling cosmetics, makeup artist who was going to create their own line, did 13 years of infomercials, created 600 products, and had many, many, many setbacks along that long story. But then all of a sudden, I had to close that book on mascara and open the book on medicine and figure out, how am I going to cure a disease? Because I am not, there's nobody friggin' going down. I'm not losing my daughter on my watch. I mean, I make lip gloss, right? I should be able to transition into curing a disease. I didn't go to high school, I didn't graduate college. All right, I'm gonna figure this out. But what I do have and what I do know is I believe in people and the humanity in people and the willingness that people want to ultimately do the right thing. All of you in this room want to do the right thing. The women on this stage that I am so proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with all want to do the right thing and have done it. And they're here today. And it's just, if you just bring that back, as I did, trying to bring together 22 countries and 23 African nations and people all over this world to think about how we look at disease, how we look at cure, how we look at humanity, how when we all stand together, shoulder to shoulder, we can really make a difference. And it has been extraordinary, the people that I have come across, from patients, clinicians, therapists, everybody involved in the circle, and it is a circle, that have really been instrumental in me standing here today. I am so proud, and I am so humbled, and so honored, and I thank every single one of you for showing up today, and for every young woman out there. Listen to your voice, be resilient, persevere. You can do anything you want. It was just, I think it was 10 years ago that my phone rang and they said, it's Gloria Steinem on line 1. And here I am today. And to Gloria, thank you so much. This moment will echo in my being forever, my family, my children. It's extraordinary, and I thank you all so much. Thank you.
Victoria Jackson, congratulations. Lorraine Hansberry, earning at age 22 many firsts. First black woman playwright to have her first play, A Raisin in the Sun, a Broadway first, African American. And youngest American to win the New York Drama's Critics Circle Award. Lorraine Hansberry changed forever the world of theater, illuminating American life as never before. She wrote the plays, she said, between her 26th and 27th birthdays, taking up the pen in place of the paintbrush and painting she studied at Chicago's Art Institute. Lorraine Hansberry was significant black intellectual, speaking on civil rights, peace, and on gender. As she wrote in 1959, if the world is engaged in a dispute between survival and destruction, then we, as members of the human race, must address ourselves to that dispute. She did. The youngest of 4, she grew up in Southside Chicago, influenced by family ties, studies with W.E.B. Du Bois, and the work of Langston Hughes. Her writings on gender and her life is a protest. Belief shaped distinct intellectual approaches. In 1957, she wrote, "It's about time that equipped women began to take on some of the ethical questions which a male-dominated culture has produced and dissect and analyze them quite to pieces. It is time that half the human race had something to say about it, its existence." For her passion, intelligence, shaping the art movement, activism, and for transforming the American stage, Lorraine Hansberry is now inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Accepting on her behalf is her sister, Mamie.
Lorraine Hansberry smiles on this occasion. Our whole family smiles. I'd like you to know our family. Would you stand, Nantil Hansberry Charbonnet? My granddaughter, she told me not to say she's a blogger, but she, Seneca Hansberry. My father's brother is Leo Hansberry. He has passed on, but his daughters are here, Kay and I'm old. Uncle Leo was an anthropologist, and he brought Black studies to Howard University and many, many other things. He traveled all over Africa and dug up plates and things to make us know that our heritage was supreme. My cousin, Charneil, on my mother's side of the family, Charneil Ryder, and her relatives are here. The Ryder family, please stand up. There are so many people in the family who call me to say congratulations. They're not surprised. Lorraine was an achiever. Our parents explained to her, as they did to all of us, go out in the world and do the best you can. Get the information you need and don't be afraid. And I think she pretty well followed that. I'm so happy to receive the award for our baby. She knows we're here. Thank you very much.
Lorraine Hansberry is now inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame.
To the entire Hansberry family, congratulations today. Amy Mullins, advance and excel could be the theme of Amy Mullins' life. She knows no barriers to achieving excellence in her life quests, whether learning to walk differently than the majority of young children because of a loss of limbs, or because she wished to be a significant athlete, or so she could claim runways as a model. She knows to move ahead as a woman with beauty, grace, dignity, and intelligence. To watch Ms. Mullins on a TED Talk, you would be impressed by the case with which she transitions from various prostheses, shows viewers her special high heel limbs, complete with nail polish, and discusses ways others can achieve success while she stands tall. She speaks with confidence based upon her life as an athlete who swam, ran, biked, and played ball, and found ways to break sports records on the track. Those same qualities propelled her to achieve in academics, earn a scholarship to Georgetown University, and earn her place in intelligence analysis at the Pentagon. Because you are an athlete and scholar who transitioned your skills to become a model, whose appearance encouraged others to understand the power of image, because you are an advocate for a positive approach, because adversity is not part of your image, and finally, because you compete to win. Amy Mullins, the Hall of Fame, takes great pride in inducting you into the National Women's Hall of Fame.
Wow, I'm so happy I'm not wearing high-heeled legs today. I first of all have to congratulate this sisterhood that's up on the dais here, the fellow honorees and also the family members of the inductees who are no longer with us. I have to admit that when I got the letter saying that I was part of this year's induction class, I misread it. I thought that they are asking me to come present something, and I was actually in the hair salon, and this woman named Shannon, who's known me for over a decade, and I said, "Can you just look at this for me? I think I'm being inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame," and she said, "Why?" And I said, and then she went, "Oh, no, I think you're amazing, but aren't you a little young for that?" And I'll admit, it did unnerve me to consider what this honor meant for me at this stage in my life. You know, is it a Lifetime Achievement Award, or are my greatest accomplishments behind me? And of course, I can tell you with absolute confidence, they are not. And while I may not have some of the experience of my fellow inductees, what I do proudly share are the qualities that we've talked about of perseverance, resilience, passion, and grit. And along with these qualities that are universally acknowledged as being the traits of successful people, I think there's something else. These people aren't just successful in the way that success is often described. These women of the hall were the first at something and often the best at something. Every one of these women is being honored because of the impact they made in this country and beyond. They've all changed the way things are done. They added a new voice, a new perspective to the societal conversation within their fields, which helped to create a paradigm shift outside of their fields. These women are innovators. There's something else that I referenced earlier as a quality that I believe is crucial to innovative thinkers. And I'm going to call it, lovingly, naivete. I love this word. And yet when I talk to people about naivete, they admit they don't like it. There's a resistance. The word carries a stigma, even if when I poke and prod, people aren't quite sure why. So I looked it up in the dictionary. And here are the two definitions: a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment, and innocence or unsophistication. In both cases, the sentence usage examples were very much negative, the context. And yet, I will argue that a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment are not, in and of itself, a negative thing. Not knowing that you can't do something is an incredible asset for innovators. Thank you. Growing up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, having wooden legs, which is still what the majority of people who wear prosthetics get, the aim was to just put back what wasn't there, a shin and a foot. But I wanted to be the fastest woman in the world on prosthetic limbs. And so while prosthetists kept making me a wooden shin with a rubber foot, I said, why are we looking at a human leg? Why aren't we looking at the fastest thing that runs, which is a cheetah? And I found someone who wouldn't say no and created the design that now, 20 years later, is the standard for amputee sprinters worldwide. Before I actually got those legs, I went and did my first track meet on those wooden legs, and I signed up for the long jump because no other women had signed up for it. So I was a guaranteed first place. I'm totally going to admit this. I wanted to go home with another win. And so you get 3 jumps, and 8 men jump, and then I jump, and 8 men jump, and I jump, and somewhere in between my second and third jump, and this is my first time I've ever been around other amputees. This is before Google, people just remember that. There was that time. And this man came up to me and he said, "So you're a double BK?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't know what that is. Is that a hamburger?" And he said, "No, it's a double below the knee amputee. That's what you are, and that's what I am too, but we're not supposed to be able to do the long jump because we don't have a good foot to push off of." And I looked at the 8 men jumping, and all of them had one leg of flesh and bone that was the leg they popped on the springboard. And I said, "Well, nobody told me that I wasn't supposed to be able to do it. And I've already jumped twice, so I may as well keep going." And within a year, I had set the world record in that event, still having been the only double BK to do it. It was an incredible lesson for me of how disabling we can be in our minds. So I looked up the original French etymology of naivete. The word naïf means just born, natural. And I believe all children are born with this quality where they do not see impossibility. They just haven't figured out how to do it yet. They see potential. The innocence of inexperience is also the freedom to dream, to explore without the historical baggage of how something should be, in my case, prosthetic leg. It allows us, at least in the nascency of an idea, to be unfettered, which is what we need to be able to change the status quo, and in conjunction with all those other important qualities that are rooted in action, to make an impact which is so big as to be recognized by your peers and your country. So I think it's really bold that the National Women's Hall of Fame is recognizing me at this point in my life. I think it's an incredible thing to send a message to young women that your voice matters and your impact is felt now. It reminds me to stay true to myself. It excites me to consider what I'm going to do with the next 4 decades of my life. And it galvanizes me to keep my curiosity and my naivete amongst the strongest muscles that I have. Thank you to my friends who came to witness this day with me, Topaz and Emmanuel and Amy and Alf. And thank you especially to my beloved best friend and husband, Rupert. Thank you so much.
Congratulations again, Amy Mullins. Carol Mutter, our 5th inductee. Carol Mutter always wanted to be a math teacher and had a mentor in high school encouraging her in that direction. But one summer, she had an opportunity to attend a camp run by the U.S. military, and then she pursued a different career path. She joined the Marine Corps. She worked hard, stuck with it, advancing with the strong work ethic that her parents instilled in her. She immersed herself in additional educational opportunities, including earning master's degrees in national security from the National War College. She passed courses in amphibious warfare and then attended the Marine Corps Command and Staff College. Lieutenant General Mutter thrived in the service. Attributes such as self-professed stubbornness have propelled her to break through barriers. Belief in the benefits of the Marine Corps team building and her natural understanding that you are expected to prove yourself in your first job in the military and every one thereafter propelled her forward. She earned the honor of being the first woman in the U.S. Armed Forces to be nominated to a 3-star grade, the first woman to receive the rank of Lieutenant General in the United States Marine Corps. for your outstanding achievements and leadership in the United States Marine Corps, where you distinguished yourself through efforts to bring people together to successfully solve problems, for your vision and exceptional support of veterans, and your drive to support the history of women in the military, and yes, for your stubbornness as well. We invite Brigadier General Wilma Vaught to confer the medallion for Lieutenant General Carol Mutter. Lieutenant General Carol A. Mutter, the Hall takes great pride today in inducting you into the National Women's Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you, Wilma. Special honor to have you do this for me. Wilma spent the first half of her life in the Air Force, and the second half building the Women's Hall of Fame. No, this is the Women's Hall of Fame. Okay, I'll get it. Building the Women's Memorial for women in the military, WMSA. It's in Washington, D.C., at the entrance to Arlington Cemetery, and it's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you should. And Wilma put heart and soul into it for 29 years, and she still volunteers there. When she called up to say she wanted me to help out with something, I never said, but my schedule, I said where and when, and I did whatever Wilma said. So thank you for being here. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, what an honor to be here. I have been blessed throughout my life, blessed with family who raised me to understand hard work, responsibility, a values system that has held me throughout my life. They ensured that I had piano lessons, even though they couldn't afford it always. Get me out, that gave me confidence, being able to perform in front of others. They made sure I was in Girl Scouts, and I really loved seeing the Girl Scouts here today. Didn't they do a great job? And one of them on crutches. Talk about a can-do attitude. That's wonderful. She was great. They made sure I was in 4-H. I went to church, learned values, extracurricular activities. My family was terrific, and I really got a great start because of them. And they always assumed I would go to college, both my brother and me. They never got to college. My dad graduated from 8th grade. That's as far as he made it, and my mother had to work in other people's homes in order to get the money to finish high school. But interestingly enough, it was never a question for my brother and me. It was always, you will go to college. And we didn't have that much money. So it was fortunate that I decided I wanted to be a teacher, because there was a great teachers' college close by. I could live at home and not have to spend a lot of money going to college. And it made a difference in my life. In fact, the summer between my junior and senior year at college, I went to that summer camp. Now, it's not really summer camp when you go to Marine Corps basic training. Not like you think of summer camp, no. But a recruiter found me my junior year in college on campus and convinced me this would be a good thing to try. And they paid me, and it was a summer job, so I could pay for my senior year of college. And it was my first airplane ride to the East Coast, to Quantico, Virginia, just 30 miles south of Washington, D.C., where I could see the nation's capital. I grew up in Colorado. Going east of the Mississippi was a big deal. So I decided to do that. And it was what have I gotten myself into kind of experience initially, but it was great. By the end of the summer, I mean, there's no other thing to do but to become a Marine. Fortunately, I had that senior year of college to figure it out and to do my student teaching and decide that I could always become a teacher later, and 3 years would be good. I could be a Marine. So I was fortunate to be allowed to join the Marine Corps and to do something that I felt was worthwhile and something I enjoyed. I started out in computers, and then I went to financial management. Then I had opportunities to be in research and development and acquisition. I had many opportunities to stretch. It seemed like I was always going to a new job, wondering how in the world did I get here. I didn't know anything about that new job. But somehow the Marine Corps figured I could handle it, and you dig in, you ask questions, you figure it out, and I was able to do it. But I certainly had to stretch. I also had the opportunity to travel, which I loved. Jim and I spent 5 years on Okinawa, Japan, on 3 different tours of duty. And yes, I met Jim in the Marine Corps. He had his own very successful career, and he is no doubt one of the keys to my success. He is definitely the wind beneath my wings, and I thank you. Sometimes the wind beneath my wings was a kick in the rear end. When I got too comfortable where I was, he would say, no, you can do more, you can do better, keep going. And when I look back, I had a life of people telling me I could do it, I can do better, I should keep going. And I think expectations are extraordinarily important. The more we expect of young people, the more they do. And we need to expect a lot of our young people and help them along the way. It's very important. And now I'm blessed to be inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. What a surprise, what an honor, and to be standing here in such company is really humbling. And with family and friends here to witness it as well. I have cousins here from Nebraska and Rochester. I have female Marine friends here, most of whom I met after I retired from the Marine Corps in the Women Marines Association. And I'd like for all of them to stand, please. We had a lot of champagne at our table, so I don't know. And I know there are a couple more women Marines in the room, and we'll get you into the association here pretty soon. It's a special bond we have, a special life that we have led as women who have earned the title Marine. And I thank you all for being here and supporting me today. Now, some wanted to be here but couldn't for various reasons, one of which was the hurricane down in Florida. Now, I do have somebody here from Florida. One of them made it, but others couldn't as the hurricane moved on up the coast. And so many people have been negatively impacted by natural disasters recent days. It happens frequently, and they're people we need to remember and help as well. Major General Castelvi. I got it right. Okay, good. We actually worked together at one point in our careers, and it's great to see you having done so well. Now wearing 2 stars, And thank you for being here today representing the Marine Corps. I appreciate it. Yes, the Marine Corps has been a huge part of my life. It gave me my husband, gave me a career that I never thought I would have, challenged me to do things I never thought I could do, and made a huge difference in my life. I am so grateful for that, and for all of you here today, and for this honor today. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, General Mutter. And in honor of her, did I hear a Marine call, like, shout out, like a hoo-ha? You want to do that again? Ah! Impressive. Temple Grandin. Revolutionary may not be Temple Grandin's choice of words to describe herself, but it aptly captures who she is as a lifelong experimenter and force for change through her writing, teaching, and researching of sensory-based thinking. For Grandin, as she puts it, words are a second language. Her first is pictures. She's a visual thinker who has the ability to build systems and whole worlds in her mind. Her visual thinking led her to inquire more broadly into other forms of sensory-based thinking, such as touch and smell, eventually raising the curtain to reveal new understandings of animal behavior and humane treatment. Grandin has unlocked much about animal behavior, as she has of autism. Her revolutionary approach upended decades and decades of research into autism, refashioning the field and some would say much of the history of psychology. She has brought hope to a field and to lives that for all too long failed to really grasp what it meant to say the world needs all kinds of minds. Born in Boston in 1947, her parents sought supportive private schools, enabling Temple to go on to complete a BA in psychology and her master's and PhD in animal science. Author of 12 books and hundreds of publications, Grandin continues to study, teach, and write about sensory-based thinking and also sensory oversensitivity. For her unerring sense of something more to be known of the world through our senses of intelligences and ways of knowing the world through touch, smell, and vision, and the larger ethic through which she threaded these newer understandings, the Hall takes great pride in inducting you into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Dr. Piper, please come step forward.
Well, I had a lot of people that helped me. My mother got me into a really good speech therapy program. I had a great third grade teacher, Ann out at the ranch, and I was not a good student. And then finally, Mr. Carlock, my science teacher, came along, and he gave me a reason to study, because I wanted to have the goal of becoming a scientist. You know, a lot of students that have problems in school and are not interested, you got to get them interested by making education a goal onto something else. And another really good mentor I had was Jim Uhl with Agro Construction. He seeked me out to work on designing cattle facilities. Now there's a lot of women in the cattle industry. But when I started back in the early 70s, there were no women in Arizona working out in the feed yards. Only women there were in the offices. And there's a scene in the movie where I walk up and I get the farmer ranchman's editor's card. I did that. Then I had to deliver the goods. One of the things I had to do is make myself better than the guys. That's what I had to do. I had to deliver the goods. And the dip fat projects I did in the 70s were shown really accurately in the movie. And when Gary Oden from McElhaney Cattle Company came up to me, asked me if I would design his dip fat, I said, give me 3 weeks. Got to remember, pre-internet. I was at the 60% level of knowledge. I needed 3 weeks to get drawings and stuff I needed to learn on reinforced concrete construction. I had the cattle stuff, but not the concrete stuff. I had the confidence to go through the door. And when the door opens, you got to go through it. And too oftentimes, people don't have the confidence to do it. When I was a little girl, I was always urged to do my very, very best. And one of my big concerns today in education is they're taking out all the hands-on classes. If I hadn't had art in elementary school, I would have gone nowhere. Because what I have done in cattle behavior and designing of facilities, it's the art side of engineering. That's the industrial design. Then the other part is the mathematical thinking. And I'm worried that too many of the visual thinkers are going to get screened out. You need us. Every time you look at your iPhone, an artist made the interface. The mathematicians made the inside of that phone work. We really do need all the different kinds of minds, and we need to be getting a lot more things back into the schools so that students can find out what kind of careers they might like. How can you find out you're going to like music or theater or art if you don't ever get a chance to do it? I just want to finish up and say one of the things I learned from working on building things is all about outcomes. And I knuckled down and studied when there was the outcome of becoming a scientist. And boy, you just got to work hard and be better than the guys. Thank you.
Temple Grandin, congratulations. Claire Booth Luce was born in 1903 from the union of two people involved in creative careers. She was destined to be a progressive pioneer, whether as a journalist and playwright, world traveler and commentator, congresswoman, intelligence advisor, or socialite. She stormed the publishing world at Vanity Fair and submitted articles that tantalized readers. She progressed to the position of editor, along the way catching the eye and hand of an influential publisher named Henry Luce. Following her own career pathway, she found success on Broadway with several plays, the most successful of which was The Women. Her keen insights propelled her to run for public office, and she was elected in 1942 as a congresswoman from Connecticut, one of only 9 women serving in Congress between 1943 and 1945. With an abiding interest in women's issues, in 1943, she supported the Equal Rights Amendment, and in 1946, she introduced a bill supporting equal pay for equal work, 1946. Claire Booth Luce also enthusiastically endorsed the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. For your exceptional independence and your role as a writer, congresswoman, ambassador, chronicler of history and behavior, and your belief that women should be supported emotionally and financially, no matter their career choices, the Hall takes great pride in inducting Claire Booth Luce into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Her granddaughter, Claire Luce Abbey, will accept this award on her behalf.
Inductee Judith Pfeiffer will hand it to her granddaughter.
Thank you. This is a very special occasion. It is an honor to be here, especially because my grandmother and namesake cannot be. She is one of 3 women being inducted posthumously today. This got me wondering, why is it that some achievements, in the case of the work of Dr. Janet Rowley, Lorraine Hansberry, and Claire Booth Luce, remain relevant so long after they're gone? It's almost spooky how relevant. Last month, the award-winning singer Taylor Swift won $1 in symbolic damages in a trial against a DJ who groped her. She wanted the chance to stand up for all women. When I read this news, it was Claire I thought of. But what could a long-dead politician possibly have in common with a 27-year-old Grammy Award winner? Claire once said, "Because I am a woman, I must make unusual efforts to succeed. If I fail, no one will say she doesn't have what it takes. They will say women don't have what it takes." That notion of responsibility, not just for your own success, but for the women around you, whether it's arguing for a fair paycheck or for someone's hand to not be on your behind, that's what these two women had in common. I think Claire and Taylor would have got along famously. Of course, it's not great that the same challenges we faced decades ago still dog us today, but wisdom and years give us strength and resolve. Claire was known for pithy one-liners. She would have loved Twitter. How many times have you heard or even said, "No good deed goes unpunished," a phrase she coined? But her pith disguises profundity. She had a deep desire to achieve and be respected, and for other women to do the same. She fought hard for herself and in what was then inarguably a man's world. More than anything, she wanted freedom for herself and other women, not only to speak their minds, but also to pursue whatever path they chose. She wanted to be not just an editor, but also a playwright, and not just a playwright, but a war correspondent, and not just a war correspondent, but also a politician, and not just a politician, but a diplomat, and not just a diplomat, but a wife and mother. And so she was. Claire didn't aim to be equal to a man. She aimed to be an unequaled woman. And decades later, so many of us are aiming for the same, inspired by her and so many others who have paved the way, including those being honored today, and those we will, no doubt, be honoring in the future. I just learned of a young woman, Sabrina Gonzalez Pastursky, a Cuban-American who is considered our country's next Einstein. She built her own airplane at 14, and 2 years later, she flew it. Now she's at Harvard at 24 years old with full academic freedom, which means she can do whatever she likes without administrative interference. Claire would have loved that. She funded a grant program through the Henry Luce Foundation for Women in Science, a field she knew little about, but in which she wanted to see women excel. So far, it has funded over 2,200 women scientists, engineers, and mathematicians, with more to come. She would have loved this honor too, the chance to look around this room and meet so many women who have pursued their passions just as intensely to become world-class chefs and scientists, authors, activists, and athletes. Claire once said, "I don't think my position unusual for a woman. I'm following a perfectly natural urge to do what I like." And more, aren't we all? I appreciate this great honor, and I congratulate the other honorees on her behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. She'll be very proud of you today, I think. Janet Rowley. It's been a benefit to all of us that Dr. Janet Rowley was a medical research change agent. Her life work and focus on chromosome translocation resulted in the understanding that cancer and genetics were linked, and that the treatment of specific forms of leukemia could be achieved because of that link. This was the foundation of a shift in thinking about cancer and medicine that could treat and cure serious illness, and her work continues to impact research to this day. Janet Rowley references her childhood interest in stamp collecting as an awakening to pattern recognition and the value of awareness and fine detail, an important attribute for a research professor at the University of Chicago. She earned her degree, met her husband there, and learned to juggle work and life at home while raising 4 sons. Whether she conducted her research on genetics at Oxford University, at the University of Chicago, or if she needed room at her dining room table, she remained humble, innovative, compassionate, collegial, and intelligent. Dr. Rowley believed that science should be engaging, exciting, and supported financially. She was awarded an honorary degree, Doctor of Science degree from 14 universities, and received many impressive national awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Obama in 2009. Dr. Janet Rowley, for your insightful and brilliant work to revolutionize medical research in genetics and cancer, you are now inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame.
Dr. Rowley's granddaughters, Jenny and Anra, will accept the award.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'd first like to start by saying how much we wish that my grandmother was here and that we were sitting with our family watching as she gave this talk. Unfortunately, all lives must end, and so we are grateful to be the ones accepting this on her behalf. As was mentioned, she made her discovery at the dining room table as she was raising her 4 rambunctious, sorry Dad, boys. And she was a part-time researcher, and she made a discovery that she then had to communicate to a male-dominated field and convince them that what they thought they knew about cancer was wrong. No small task, as you can imagine. However, in her lifetime, she was able to see the development of a drug that reduced mortality rates by 90%. She gave those people their life back. That's what that means. It's amazing. And when thinking about what we wanted to say about her, I had the great pleasure of speaking with many of her mentees. And oftentimes when we talk about scientific discovery, we talk about the person who made those discoveries, their stunning brilliance, their incredible ability to innovate. And we oftentimes don't talk about their character, which I feel, and I know our family feels, was instrumental to her success as a scientist, as a mentor, as a family member. And so this week, I've been able to meet with many of her mentees, and the first thing that every single one of them said was a mention of her generosity, her incredible generosity. No one was too junior for her, no matter how advanced she was in her career. If someone needed her to look at a grant proposal, a manuscript, she took time. She always took time for them. She made sure that people knew, especially women, that they were there because of their accomplishments, because of their own abilities, not because of luck, not because of chance, not because they somehow snuck through and someone's going to find them out. She made sure that they all knew that, including us, throughout our lives. And so a few years ago, I had the very strange experience of when I began working at the University of Chicago doing my own research, I was asked to pick an email. Unknowingly, I picked my grandmother's old email. And I remember opening my email for the first time and seeing that my inbox was full, being very confused, and then realizing, oh my goodness, this is my grandmother's email, and seeing that it was filled with well wishes of people asking to check in, of requests to look over papers and grants. And you know, if I didn't look at my emails for 2 years, it would be filled with phishing scams that I may or may not succumb to, of credit card offers, you know, not you know, hundreds of messages of admiration. So that is a testament in and of itself, the kind of person that she was. And, you know, for her grandchildren, for us, she was so humble. She always made sure that we saw her first and foremost as the woman who wore colorful clothing all year round, the woman who would make Christmas dinners that we would talk about all year round, and in my brother's words, who would garden, who was such a talented gardener that her string beans were the length of an arm, and she would show us how big earthworms can get in a healthy garden. That's who she was for us. And so as a young woman in science and medicine, I have had the great pleasure of having many female mentors, and the first one was her. And to know that she set the paradigm for what a successful mentor, male or female, looks like: being generous, being kind, encouraging, asking people to think outside the box, to not be satisfied with how we've been defined to think in our lives. That is how she challenged the people around her. So to know that that started with her, I'll never be able to reconcile that with myself. I'll never be able, you know, to make sense of that. I don't think anyone can. And so finally, I think she would be so honored to be with you here. I feel like I'm standing among giants, honestly. And she would thank all of you for being women that her 3 grandchildren, her 3 granddaughters, and her 2 grandsons would look up to and want to be like. So, you know, thank you so much for all of this.
Congratulations, well done. Congratulations to the entire Rowley family. What a day for you. Alice Waters. Flavor and zest in life and in food, love of the land, respect for those who grow food, and a natural desire to connect to children colored the world of Alice Waters. When she opened Chez Panisse in San Francisco, she did so with the goal of serving fresh food selections to appreciative patrons, an idea that has been a boon to good health for customers and forwards our appreciation for the slow food that she holds so dear. Alice Waters was trained in the Montessori method of education and spent time in France embracing the sight and smells of healthy foods. It's not a surprise, then, that her appreciation of education and organic gardening led to the opportunity to teach children to grow, cook, and eat their own food in the Edible Schoolyard Project in Berkeley, and that the idea has spread miles beyond California. She firmly believes that feeding children is an economic issue and that free lunches should be sourced from local, sustainable farmers. It's no wonder that she has been shown respect. She has been shown respect and appreciation for her skills and voice by the James Beard Foundation, as she was the first woman to be named Best Chef in America, and that many additional awards and cookbooks authored by her have followed. She is a thoughtful, influential, and creative woman leader whose food-related expressions deserve our attention and action. For your dynamic efforts to educate children and adults about respect for healthy, fresh food, for those who grow that food and farm on precious soil, for the passion and values you have exhibited for the environment and sustainability, and for understanding the power of gathering, Alice Waters, the Hall takes great pride in inducting you into the National Women's Hall of Fame. I'd like to invite up Dr. Barbara Igluski to step forward and confer the medal for Alice Waters.
Thank you. I am very honored to be here. And
with these amazing other honorees. Really amazing. But as you can guess, I wish I could feed you an idea rather than talk to you. I'd like to give you a really ripe peach right now. Just give you a ripe peach. You know, I was a Montessori teacher, and I always believed that the idea was winning kids over, making it so irresistible over there that their bad behavior just disappeared. And I don't like to tell kids, you know, what to eat or how to be. I just want them to come and experience and feel empowered to make the right choice. And that's why I'm so adamant about this idea of a free, sustainable school lunch for every child in this country. Everyone. It's the place of equality. All children come to the table. And it's the place of deep nourishment. And I have this crazy idea that we can get academic minutes for it if we connect it to the academic subjects. So imagine that you're in 6th grade and you're studying the Silk Road in India, and you're eating a dal, and you're eating a chapati, and you're eating maybe a carrot salad with a little cumin, and you are engaged with all of your senses, and you're at the table and having a conversation with your friends. And maybe it's a language class, and you're studying Spanish, and maybe you're eating a tortilla soup or a tamale, and you are engaged in that way at the table, because we don't have the time or the focus to feed kids, even if it's real food, in the cafeteria, because it's just a free-for-all there, and the kids who need it the most don't need it at all, and we all know this. I'm very excited by what's happened in New York City last week. They're going to be serving a free school lunch to every kid in New York City. But it's really up to you to lobby for the idea of making it a school lunch that comes from all the sustainable farmers and ranchers in the state of New York. So that's the job. I'm deputizing you all who live here. But it's so important that we lift up the farmers with the teachers as being the most important people. They're the ones that feed us. And it's so important that they are honored. I mean, truly, deeply honored. So I just want you to know that I call this a delicious revolution. This isn't hard to do. Thank you so much.
Congratulations again, Alice Waters. Last but not least, number 10, Sherry Lansing. Passion, empathy, listening, and decisiveness distinguish Sherry Lansing's leadership as the first woman president of 20th Century Fox, shattering one glass ceiling after another. Sherry Lansing has been a trailblazer for over 30 years and the first woman executive to be honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. leaving Fox after 3 years to form an independent production company. Lansing shortly thereafter became chairman and CEO of Paramount Pictures for an exceptional tenure of over a decade. She was involved in the production, marketing, and distribution of over 200 films, including Academy Award winners Forrest Gump, Braveheart, and Titanic. You've heard of them, right? As an independent producer, she brought signature films to the screen, including Fatal Attraction and The Accused. Sherry Lansing's aspirations to be in the movies led her from her home in Chicago to LA after graduating from Northwestern. There she pursued her dream to act while teaching math and English, discovering inadvertently her talent for script writing. Recognized by the Academy with the 2007 Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award, Sherry Lansing's philanthropic leadership is in every measure as innovative as when she was leading Hollywood. From her support of the University of Rochester Laboratory School she attended through to the Sherry Lansing Foundation raising funds for cancer research and creating Encore, a program for retired people to teach, one sees her immense skills, generosity of spirit, and decisiveness. She serves on the University of California Board of Regents and has been recognized with numerous honorary doctorates. Lansing greets life chapters as about having new curiosity and new things that come into your life. For her unprecedented leadership in the major motion picture industry, her many talents in movie production, and for her innovative advocacy. Sherry Lansing, the Hall takes great pride in inducting you into the National Women's Hall of Fame. I'd like to invite up Allie Latimer to step forward to confer the medal for Sherry Lansing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really wonderful to be here. First of all, I love Seneca Falls. This is the first time I've been here. I think everyone should move here. It's so beautiful. But I am particularly honored and humbled to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I am particularly honored to be sharing it with this incredibly distinguished group of women, some of whom I actually knew before, some of whom are actually close friends of mine, but many who I have never met before, but only read about. They inspired me, and they made me want to do better. I also think of the women who were inducted into the Hall of Fame in the past. And I also want to acknowledge them, because these women really led the way for me and for all of us. And there is perhaps, I know we've already said this, but there is perhaps no greater example of this than Gloria Steinem, without whom none of us would be here. These moments are always particularly bittersweet for me, because when I think about how blessed I've been, and when I think about how lucky I am and how honored and humbled I am to receive this award, there's always one woman above all the women that I'm grateful to, that I miss so much at times like this. And I am referring, of course, to my mother. My mother, Margot, was the greatest role model and inspiration that I ever had. My mother escaped Nazi Germany, and she came here when she was a child of just 17. She didn't speak a word of English, and she learned to adjust to America, which she loved more than anything. And soon she married my dad. My mother was a housewife, and she was an incredible mother to my sister and myself. But unfortunately, my father died at a very young age of a heart attack at 42, and my mother, Margot, was just 32 years old, faced with raising my sister and myself. And I can still remember, as if it was just 10 minutes ago, when amidst her grief, the gentlemen came into the room, and they were men that worked for my father. He had a very small real estate business. And they said to him, "Margot, you don't need to worry. We'll take over the business and we'll take care of you." And my mother, amidst her grief, looked at them with these incredibly strong eyes, and she said, "No, you won't. You will teach me how to run the business, and I will take care of my children." That moment, when I was 9 years old, changed my life forever. At that moment, by my mother's actions and by her continued actions, I learned never to be a victim. I learned that I must be independent and I must take care of myself. So I knew at that point in life that I wanted to work. But if you can remember 100 million years ago, I'm 73 years and very proud of being that age. Yes, it's a very young age. We are the youngest generation, perennials, as I like to call us. But anyways, I knew that I wanted to work. But if you can remember back at those times, there weren't a lot of options available for women. The two careers that we were told to pursue, which are fantastic careers, were to be a nurse or a teacher, and I love those professions, but I wanted to go in the movie business. And if it wasn't for the women's movement, I don't think I would have really known that I had options. So I am so grateful to all of the women who broke down the barriers and told me that I could have choices. So it is really in honor of my mother and in honor of the women who came before me, the women who led the way, and also in honor of the future, because I believe that the future generation of women, all of you out there in the world and in this audience, are going to do things that I can't even dream of today. So I accept this award with deep gratitude in honor of the past and mostly in honor of the future. So thank you very much.
As co-presidents of the board, we welcome our 2017 inductees to the National Women's Hall of Fame. Your individual stories enlarges the history of women who transform America in distinct ways, and you, along with all those who have been inducted since 1969, collectively furnish the story writ large of the vast areas and fields of expertise women have shaped, innovated, remade, and made again as they pursue their curiosity and wonder at how things might be or what might happen by pursuing a line of thought or desire or dream. We thank our MC, Jenny Ryan, for her continuing friendship and support of the Hall, and for her kind collaboration. We're grateful to you for all that you do.
Thank you. I don't know how you're feeling, but my mind is abuzz with genuine appreciation for the 10 women whose lives have changed our lives and who are entering the hall today. Thank you. There's just a few more moments to go. A few reminders. There will be a book signing, so for all of you who have a copy and you want to line up to have either Ms. Jackson, Ms. Lansing, Dr. Grandin, Honorable Rafa Cuomo and Ms. Waters to sign your books. Please make sure that you have your copy ready. There's the Barnes & Noble table at the back, and we thank Barnes & Noble for being here and making sure that when we celebrate women's history, we make sure we read it too. Thank you. We would love for you to keep this center aisle as clear as possible. We're going to be asking the inductees after we recess to return for a group photo, and so we'll have a little back and forth, a two-step. And yes, the visual record, the photograph, you will also be able to visit it at the hall. And now, as we conclude this year's ceremony, please stand and join us once again in congratulating the National Women's Hall of Fame 2017 inductees.
We're going to do the picture now, I believe.